Now, scientists in Scotland say they've made a breakthrough which could help stop the spread of breast cancer. Research published in the journal Embo Reports found there are key metabolic changes which happen in the body before the disease spreads. Detecting these changes early could offer a window of opportunity to stop the disease from moving around the body, making it easier to manage. Well, Professor Jim Norman is from Cancer Research UK Scotland Institute and the University of Glasgow, and he's with me now. Jim, really good to speak to you tonight. Thank you for joining us. Just tell us about your research. What did you find?
Well, we've identified that in breast cancer, at a relatively early stage, metabolic changes occur in the immune system. And so the immune system switches from a manner in which it fights cancers to a manner in which it can help cancer spread. And when the immune system's like this, it means that cells can move from the primary tumour to secondary sites much more easily, and that makes the disease much more difficult to treat.
So understanding then kind of how and why breast cancer spreads is pretty much key to preventing the disease.
Yes, that's right. And we've found that if you inhibit these metabolic changes with the drug that we've been working with, you can switch the immune system back on so that it can then fight the disease, and you can reverse this secondary disease.
How significant a breakthrough do you think this is?
Well, at the moment, it's early. It's at an early stage, and we have a very good understanding of how the biological and metabolic processes work. But what needs to be done now is to develop drugs that target this process that will actually work in the clinic, and that will probably take a couple of years to get drugs, and then after that they would have to go into clinical trials to assess their effectiveness in patients.
So this is kind of the start of the journey that hopefully will make a difference then. How much of a difference do you think this could make, potentially?
Well, I think we're dealing with secondary breast cancer in the lung. So breast cancer often spreads to the lung, and when it does, that means that the disease is impossible to treat, and quite a high proportion of breast cancers form secondaries in the lung. So that relatively high proportion of breast cancer patients would in principle benefit from this kind of treatment. So we think that if the disease is caught at a relatively early stage, that inhibiting this metabolic process will be very effective in blocking lung metastasis, therefore effectively benefiting quite a high proportion of patients.
Just finally and briefly, Professor, just during your time that you've been involved in this research, how much progress would you say that you've seen towards developing early detection methods?
Well, there's been a huge increase in effectiveness of early detection in many cancers, actually particularly in breast cancer, and that's been extremely effective, and we're already seeing the benefits of that. I think the research that we've done adds another rung to that. I think we can determine relatively clearly whether a tumour has a very high chance of forming secondaries in the lung, and if so, then that tumour needs to be treated perhaps more aggressively at an early stage.
All right, Professor. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Professor Jim Norman there from the Cancer Research UK Scotland Institute and University of Glasgow. The time's just gone